Hey, hi, hello, Satanic here, and welcome to what I would call a little bit of a build progression video. As you may know, at the beginning of this league, I was planning, or those who have watched the video, I was planning on making a poison build and making it work this time because of the whole support gem restriction removal and the mana cost reduction. Now, it's safe to say that the build is still going, and as you saw from the preview, it's going pretty fucking well. There have been some minor changes, as in it's not strictly poison anymore. It's a poison bleed ailment build. And yeah, so far it's taken me up to tier 8, and it's been doing it very easily. I can survive quite well, as long as I don't face tank, you know, just fucking hordes and hordes of enemies. But if we do, poison can replenish our health based on the mobs that we kill. But yeah, I haven't progressed as far as, like, you know, the big creators name, because outside of this, I unfortunately have a life. And while I would love to fully dedicate myself to my build and my game, I can't, because I need to finance my bills, the house that I live in, and my partner's crippling Labubu addiction. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Yeah, no, she doesn't have a Labubu addiction. If she hears me, I'm fucking dead. So yes, warning about this build. If you're wanting a one-click button build, this build is not for you. I'm sorry. If you want something like that, you have plenty of options this league, one of them being, you know, Lightning Arrow Deadeye. I myself am trying to avoid the meta as much as I can, strictly because we're at the fresh beginning of a game, man. We can learn all the game mechanics and intricacies of skills because we're not overloaded with mechanics. And so I decided that I'm gonna try and start making builds for myself. With that said, yes, this is not a one-button build. If you're someone like me who likes to be engaged in gameplay and not just throwing one skill and watching an entire screen disappear, which is weird to say because I love that in PoE1, but in this game I still love it, but it's way less. I played Lightning Spear. I made my own Lightning Spear last league, and I got bored of that very, 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 very fast, and I quit basically not even a month into the league. Or at least I got burnt out not even a month into the league. But with this build, we are running a multitude of skills. This is a Herald of Blood and Herald of Plague with Plague Bearers combo. We also have Wind Dancer for added defenses, but we'll slowly go through our build. So over here we have Plague Bearer, and currently it's running Bleed 3, Admixture, Magnified Area 2 for increased AoE, and Bursting Plague. Now I added Bursting Plague as a very last minute thing. I haven't done too much testing with it. I'm guessing because Plague Bearer poisons, it would work just fine, and it would essentially just increase clear speed, because once they die with poison they explode into the plague. But yeah, Plague Bearer is very important for clear, especially if you're doing stuff like Breach, or if you're getting surrounded. It just helps you clear packs from around you very fast. That, and it also procs other skills. More on that later. We have Poison Burst Arrow. This is a skill that we're basically constantly running. This is our main projectile skill and how we consistently keep poison stacks applied. Not to mention that it's easy to clear small packs with it. We're running Bursting Plague on this as well. Rapid Attacks 2 for increased attack speed. Multi-shot because we're running an Adherent / Fanatic Bow, and also Bleed. Again, this is a Herald of Bleed build. Post-editing side here. Yeah, I seem to have had a stroke in this section. What I meant to say was this is a Herald of Blood and Herald of Plague build. So yeah, sorry about that. Which means we constantly want bleeding to be applied so the Herald of Blood can do its thing and help us with clear. Then we have Rain of Arrows. Now, Rain of Arrows, you could probably leave this out of the build. I run it strictly to constantly load up my Plague Bearer with poison, because Plague Bearer, it's based on damage stored, meaning that if you're dealing a bunch of damage, it builds up its percentage much faster, and you can essentially effectively spam Plague Bearer. That, and it also procs Toxic Growth. So the main mechanics of this build is when you have Plague Bearers, you plop a Vine Arrow and Toxic Growth down, and then you Plague Bearer, and it hits all pustules and causes them to instantly explode, which is huge damage in that area of effect. I have the concentrated area. I'll talk more about that, so the plants are closer rather than farther. But yeah, as you can see, a Rain of Arrows also procs the Toxic Growth, which means that, yeah, if you don't have a Plague Bearers, or you just want to like do a quick clear, you do this, and it procs the Toxic Growth, and they'll explode in an area. Then we have Bleed on this as well. We wanted to apply Bleed. We also have Chance of Poison, because Rain of Arrows doesn't naturally have poison on it. We have Admixture, which means that because it's poison and bleeding, it does more magnitudes of both. And Escalating Poison to essentially increase the stacks of poison. I may change this and put this on Toxic Growth. I just don't have the gem slot available, because essentially once Toxic Growth explodes, it poisons, and once it poisons, it applies the stack, and if they all explode at the same time, they'll just essentially just giga stack the poison. Vine Arrow, now with this skill, I strictly use it for slows when I feel like I'm getting overrun by mobs. You probably can get away with not running this. It's pretty good for single target for bosses, but I don't feel, currently the way my build is, doesn't feel super necessary, especially since I'm a crit build, and since this is non-damaging ailment chaos damage, I'm pretty sure it doesn't benefit off of crit. I could be wrong. It can be poisoned, which causes it to deal more damage, and I'm not entirely sure if the poison itself, if it crits, if the poison crits, if it applies to the Vine Arrow. I'm not entirely sure on that. I haven't done that much testing. Toxic Domain, you don't really need this. It's just here. I rarely use this. I sometimes use this with rares or when like I'm doing ritual, strictly because it like regens health. So if you find yourself in a sticky situation, I turn it on. Again, I haven't done enough testing because I just forget about the skill constantly. Technically, it should be good because it applies more pustules a la Toxic Growth style. So technically, it should cause a nice bit of damage. Then we have Wind Dancer. It's got no supports yet, but I'll probably put some supports on this. This is just for extra evasion. Herald of Plague. This is super important because this spreads your poison. It's what allows your poison to proliferate, and it hinders enemies as well. That's not a giga important thing, but yeah, I have Precision 2 and Mana Regen on it because yeah, we're constantly chugging mana. It's not, mana consumption is nowhere as bad as it used to be in 0.1. I remember Rain of Arrows costing me about 300 mana per cast, I think it was, at level 18. Now it's 75, which is a huge difference. Toxic Growth, this is essentially our burst bread and butter. Yeah, it's an amazing skill. They've changed it. Now it's a rain skill rather than that shitty animation it used to do. And this is probably my favorite skill and most favorite skill in the game. I love it. It reminds me of Toxic Rain, which is what I wanted it to be in the first place. And there's so many things you can do. Poison Burst, essentially, when you're hitting mobs and you shoot this, Poison Burst, triggers it. If you do Herald of Plague, triggers all of it. Rain of Arrows, if it's with Poison Chance, triggers it. I'm pretty sure Gas Arrow triggers it as well. It's just an overall great skill, I feel like. And it applies poison, meaning that you can get some crazy poison DPS if you have like a high base damage once the pustules explode. And yeah, it literally just melts anything. And last but not least, we have a Herald of Blood. So yeah, we have base physical damage. This is, I'm pretty sure, unscalable, but it basically scales off the blood loss you cause. So basically, the stronger your bleed is, I'm pretty sure it deals more damage. It's very good paired with Herald of Plague and Bursting Plague and Plague Bearers, because essentially once the mob dies, they explode, deal physical damage, plus the poison damage and the Bursting Plague damage, and you just clear and you watch everything explode into a puddle of goop and blood. And it's very, very fun if you've seen the preview. It's got Poison 3 because I want it to poison, essentially, once they explode. I think it works. Again, I need to do a lot more testing. I've only had a few days to test this, and I've been working and everything, so I haven't done, like, all the homework, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of smarter people out there that can probably test this out and be like, hey, this doesn't work. Deadly Herald, pretty sure this works. It just increases damage on explosion. Deal more physical damage again on explosion. Base, I'm pretty sure the base can scale. It's this thing that doesn't scale, essentially, based off the blood loss, so... And then we have Culling Strike. I was thinking of changing this with something else. I can't remember. I think it was either the physical level gem or something else. But essentially, Culling Strike is just, when you're clearing packs, if you call strike them, you make them die faster and they don't survive. And yeah, it's just, I think overall, again, I added this last minute before I started the video. I was doing some testing stuff, but yeah, so far the build is feeling way, way better than I thought I could ever come up. We're running, again, an adherent bow. This bow is shit, by the way, because as you can see, I have like 2 good prefixes on it, and the rest are just very meh. There's no crit damage, there's no proj, there's no attack speed. None of the rolls that we want are there, except for the fizz, and they're rolled pretty low as well. And we are running crit. Again, this visceral quiver isn't the best, strictly because it's got elemental damage, which we don't have use of because we're not running the elemental unique gloves that allow you to poison based on elemental damage. I want to try that too at some point, probably, like switch to an elemental and see if I can scale damage better from elemental damage. I know in 0.1 you were just better off doing fizz. But yeah, crit essentially, and then we have just, you know, the usual evasion gear because I'm running full evasion / deflection for our skill tree. Obviously, I'm running Pathfinder. I've only done 2 Ascendancy so far. Again, I have very limited time during the week, but I'm trying to play the game as much as I can. I'm also editing my next video that's coming out on Saturday. So yeah, I haven't had a lot of time, but I try to make what I can. So yeah, for Ascendancy, we had the most damaging poison is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. Again, this is good. This is better, strictly because it's a higher radius. I'm not sure if they stack on top of each other. I don't think they do. But Herald of Plague also hinders, essentially, and it's an aura which allows you to stack buffs on it. You need this, which means you need to go through this. If they stack together, that's amazing, but it's within, so I highly doubt they stack each other. This one doubles your poison stacks, which is very important. You need this because essentially the more poison stacks you have, the more dot you're creating, right? For the next Ascendancies, I was very tempted to go here, but then I don't really need a use for this. I feel like I survived just fine with the movement speed penalty, so I'll probably go here and get an immunity to freeze, because freeze is fucked, and then we'll get the evasion rating grants elemental damage reduction, strictly because that's fucking strong. Evasion, if you're fully built into it, is pretty strong, and yeah, with deflection, you essentially have like triple layers. If you have good HP as well, that's like 4 good layers of defense. Resistances as well, so yeah, you have elemental damage reduction, the evasion, and then you have the deflection, which reduces damage, and it makes you a pretty good class in terms of survival. Yeah, when it comes to our tree, taking the good old route here of proj damage, I may change this to attack speed. I'm not quite sure yet, because that was my plan initially. We go down here, we get vile wounds, essentially to increase damage for ailments. We have crippling toxins, more poison stuff, essentially. Evasion, because you need to survive. There's no point in having a lot of damage if you just get one shot. The quiver bonuses, these are just good, essentially, because you just scale your quiver, and then I believe as well there's a desecration on the bow that gives you even more bonuses from quiver. I haven't really been lucky and gotten that yet on any of my bows, but yeah, I've crafted this. There's another bow that I'm using soon, but I'm still just not high level enough for it. I ended up buying it, but I need level 79. I'm a level away. I'm just looking at the footage here, and I don't think anyone wants to watch a guide that's like 30 minutes long. So what I'll do is I'll cut off the chat here. The POB will be in the description. I ended up making one. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments about the build or in my Discord, which will also be linked in the description. Because we would literally be here for the next 30 minutes of me just yapping about the skill tree. So I'm just going to cut it here, and I'll show you the preview to what it looks like currently in its state. So yeah, I'm going to run this map. It's monsters deal 25% of damage as extra lightning, armored, chance to bleed, and 29% reduced flash charges. It's not Giga Juiced, there's 2 portals, and it's a tier 8. This is the highest tier I've gotten to so far. Been progressing relatively smoothly. I haven't really suffered much. I've died here and there due to carelessness. So yeah, Delirium Mirror. You can also trigger Plague Bearer whenever you want. You don't need to wait for toxic growth or anything like that. Now again, this isn't like lightning arrow levels of damage, but if you're wanting to have fun and testing things out and you want something different than the 48% of the fucking rest of the game that are playing, this is a good alternative. I can see myself doing Zesht and pretty much all content with this build. It may just require a little bit more effort in terms of killing bosses. Map bosses, they're not really a struggle either. Yeah, like, so, if you'll notice this, Abyss gets fucking cleared out really fast. Because as soon as they essentially come out, they just explode and die. You get just like that. You obviously have to be careful because there's some fucked Abyss mods, like the Shaper Beam one. And there you go, everything spawns, everything dies. The mobs obviously can take a little bit longer, especially one that's got like chaos and crit resistance. But it's not the end of the world, really. If they're surrounded by mobs, they'll literally just melt. Yeah, so with toxic growth being on corrosion being on toxic growth, it just instantly fucking destroys armor, which then allows us to, yeah. That's the boss dead. Again, it's probably not as giga clear as like grenades or stuff, but I genuinely do not have an issue with it being slightly slower. What I wanted to do is get it done and not taking fucking decades, and it can do just that so far. Again, I have not suffered with any bosses, and mind you, this is running off a very shitty build and a very shitty quiver. So, if you have good weapons, you're just gonna melt through the game, genuinely. And once you get all the crit nodes, you get the crit that you need. It's generally going to be a fucking amazing build. And again, thank you so much for watching. This is a very experimental build. I need to stress this. This isn't a, hey, follow my build. It's giga good. It's overpowered. It's like Jung Rowan or Fubgun level of build. It's not. This is just what I've been playing and what I've been having fun with. It's carrying me throughout pretty much every single piece of content that I've tried to do without much struggle. Is it slower than Lightning Arrow? Yes. Is it slower than a lot of like the top meta builds? Yes, probably. Again, my goal isn't to kill the boss in 5 seconds. My goal is to clear every single piece of content that I want to without pulling my hair out. And this build has literally done that with flying colors so far. So yeah, as I said, POB will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry for the video being a bit yappy. I'm just, you know, talking about my build and how it's been working, and I've genuinely been loving this patch. So much so that, yeah, I have another video coming out on Saturday with my entire well, not entire, but snippets of my campaign playthrough. It'll probably be like a 20-30 minute video. It should be really entertaining. I hope you guys like it. With that said, yeah, POB in the description. Join the Discord. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you want to run the build, feel free. If you have any questions or perhaps any suggestions for the build, feel free to let me know in the comments. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on Saturday. Peace out.